Very fascinated to hear your answer on this one, because you had Brian Stelter, the famed Brian Stelter, on your podcast. And well, here's a little clip.
I think newsrooms just looked around and said, we don't have the laptop. We don't have evidence. We don't have evidence it's real. And we know that there are reasons to wonder if it's disinformation. Like, a lot of the lies that happen now about what happened in 2020 go like this. They say, all these they all called it disinformation. That's not true. A lot of us just wondered. We said out loud, could this be?
Right.
We said things like, some former U.S. officials think it might be. And it was always cushioned and it was not always. It was often cushioned that way. And now, in retrospect, 2 years later, 3 years later, partisans like to pretend that it was labeled disinformation, which it wasn't.
Steve, why are you pretending these people called it Russian disinformation?
Right, exactly. Well, right after that, I pressed him on this. I mean, the fact that they highlighted the letter from James Clapper and many others in the intel agency who, to this day, defend that letter as all the earmarks of Russian disinformation, and they put that out there. And okay, so you're just saying that's one theory, is it's Russian disinformation. Well, what about the other theory? Why not talk about the New York Post story? I mean, the entire media apparatus clamped down and refused to even treat the New York Post story as if it was a something to be discussed, let alone legitimate, as we now know, completely legitimate. I mean, it's one of the most embarrassing episodes. In fact, that question was in response to Brian asking me, what's the one thing that we got the most wrong over the last few years? And I believe it was the Hunter Biden laptop story in October 2020. So I think that Brian was making a defense of the media that did not hold up. I think anyone can see that. But I will say this. Brian's someone I've known for 15 years. I'm often critical of Brian when he was the media host at CNN, and I would be critical of lots of people, and many of them would block me on Twitter and refuse to engage with me offline. Brian was not one of those people, and I'm glad. I think that we need a dialogue with people who disagree in this country, which is why I was glad Brian did it. We disagreed very strongly. Everything as fundamental as whether Trump was an existential threat, which I think is completely ridiculous. But I'm glad he did it, because we need these sorts of conversations out in the open. We need to call them out, and we need people that are willing to listen and engage to get back to a place of at least some level of trust between people who have strong disagreements.
Steve, the book is Uncovered. It's outstanding. I encourage people to go get it. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Jesse. Appreciate it.